You're listening to Taste for Truth Weight Loss Encouragement. I'm your host, Barb Raveling. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. It is so great to have all of you here. And I am excited today to have Anna here for kind of like a coaching / victory podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Anna.
Thanks, Barb. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. And why don't you tell us a little bit about you, Anna, before we get started?
Yeah, so I am newly a stay-at-home mom, and I've got 2 kids. I have an almost 5-year-old daughter named Paxton and an almost 1.5-year-old son named PJ. And I'm just coming off the heels of a teaching career. I was teaching 8th grade math, but because of some drama that's happening at that school, myself and a few other teachers had to leave. So I am now staying at home and I'm loving it. I am 24 years old. I think that's all I've got in my bucket right now.
I'd say that's a lot in your bucket and a pretty great stage of life. I mean, you might not get as much sleep, but boy, what a wonderful life to have those 2 little kids and being able to love them and spend time with them. Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit then about your weight loss story?
Yeah, so I've struggled kind of with, I would at least say body image since I was very young. My dad was in the military, and so he had a very high expectation of the way he was supposed to look. And I think sometimes he pushed that on us as his kids and his family. And not so much that he would like berate us or I wouldn't go as far to say like he told us we were fat or anything like that. But we always felt a little bit bad because he was always trying to get us to come run with him, or he would mention like, are you sure you want a second plate? Or are you sure you want to eat that cookie? Just like, I think in his head, he was trying to make sure we were making good choices, but it always came off as we're not good enough. We're on a bad track. We're going to be fat forever, that kind of thing. So I struggled with that from the beginning. And then just kind of growing up, it was difficult for me to say no to sweet foods. I've always had a very big sweet tooth. And so I would say probably around high school, had a lot of stuff happen. My dad passed away. We went to Alabama from out of state because of the military. Just a lot of stuff happened. And so I started turning to food for comfort, where like before it was very recreational. I was excited to have a cupcake whenever it was offered. Now it was like, I need to go get a bowl of ice cream, or I need to go get an Oreo because I'm stressed out and I need something to eat. So I gained probably, I want to say probably 25 to 30 pounds just from sophomore year to senior year of high school. And then when I was pregnant with Paxton, my oldest, I gained 40 pounds just in the being a pregnant person and not having great boundaries with food. So at my heaviest before, like with Paxton, I think right out of the hospital, I was 206 pounds. And then I had my son PJ, and like before I had him, my heaviest was 225. I know that doesn't really count because I had a baby in that is
right.
Part of the right. So I think the heaviest I've ever seen this scale without a baby in my belly is 206. So I've fought hard back and forth, trying different diets, trying different exercise programs, and always feeling like I couldn't say no to sweets, or always feeling like I was falling back onto, but like I would be good for a couple of days and then fall back and say, oh, that didn't work. I'll try again later. Or I was really bad about, oh, I've messed up today, so I'll just go on and eat the rest of the day since today's a wash anyways. I'm better at that now, but that was my biggest hang up before when I was trying to do diets. So this summer I started working out with a group called FIA, which I think it's just called Females in Action or something like that. But it's a free workout group that people around the nation just go meet up in the morning and work out outside together. And it's peer led. So I had done a little bit of exercise before. I lost about 20 pounds at the beginning of 2022, just working out, just trying to make better choices in my own willpower. But it kind of seemed like all the weight that I'd lost was more cardio was going to burn this anyways. So I was working out with FIA, had a lot more fun with FIA, started running with FIA. I'm training for a half marathon now and hopefully a full marathon by the end of the year. And so I started the beginning of 2022 not knowing how to work out or exercise at all or move my body or take care of my body. And so by the end of 2022, I feel like I've broken free from that. However, what I realized during this school year, and I mentioned the drama that had happened that made me have to leave my job. During the school year, there was a lot of anxiety and stress. And so, whereas before I wasn't stressed out and it was easier for me to say no to some of those foods, during that stressful season, I was realizing, oh crap, I am still like idolizing food and I'm turning to food when I should be turning to the Lord, or just anytime I feel remotely upset about anything, I'm like, okay, I'll go to Sonic really quick and get a blast or something. So up to this point, I weighed myself this morning just because I knew we'd be talking and I was curious. I'm back to like the 30 pounds down from my heaviest. So I was 176 this morning. And I would like to be more, like 20 pounds less. But I've got to do it with eating now because I'm training for a marathon and the weight's not coming off. So it must not be the exercise anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting because before we were talking, Anna told me that she struggled with laziness, exercise and laziness. And obviously she's not struggling with that anymore. She's made herself develop exercise habit. Just out of curiosity, how did you make yourself exercise if you were a lazy person with exercise?
So I'm really good at when I make a commitment to something and I have check boxes that I can check off, that is highly motivating for me for some reason. Or if I get stickers, I don't know why as an adult, stickers are so motivating to me. But I started a program. One of my friends is a Beachbody coach. And so I did the 100-day challenge with Beachbody and I was able to check off every day that I finished. It wasn't perfect and I missed several days, but there was something about being able to check off the box that helped me get up every morning and do it.
Oh, that's great. In fact, you guys, I have a little video on my YouTube channel. It has something about how to start a habit with stickers and a chart or something. I'll put a link in the show notes because I can't remember what it's called, but I'm the same way. I get motivated with little stickers. Yeah. So that's interesting.
I'm a grown person. I motivate my child with stickers, but it works for me too.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I started to fall in love with it. And where I used to dread that feeling of soreness, I really enjoyed lifting weights and seeing that 2 weeks later, I was able to lift something heavier or do more reps. It was just very motivating. And so by the summer, when it was time for me to actually go out and work out with people and not, I guess it was easy when I was just doing Beachbody workouts at home for me to skip out a couple of reps or say, oh, I don't want to do that move. So I'm just not going to do that move. So by the summer, when I joined FIA, I wasn't able to hide behind, oh, I don't want to do that, or I don't feel comfortable doing a push-up. I was at FIA and there were 12 other girls there and they were going to call me out if I didn't do the push-ups. So I had to do the push-ups.
Okay. So I think for anybody listening who's trying to start an exercise habit, to me, what I'm hearing is if you join a class or something where people are expecting you to do it, and also if you start some sort of online program like yours, but it was 100, did you say it was 100-day program or something like that?
Yeah. When I go in, I go all in.
So it was, what did you say, 100-day?
100 days, yes.
Okay, and that was Beachbody. So something like that might help because it's more structured rather than just saying, oh, I'm going to exercise 50 minutes a day. I mean, it does work for me to have my Fitbit and all I do is walk. I know I really need to start doing some core strengthening. I only walk, but something that's kind of tracking you in some way, right?
Exactly. And I think that was what was so hard in my past trying to get a workout habit was I would just go try to find something on Pinterest and then try to mimic it and try to figure out how I was going to time it. But when I was following a video, taking the thoughts out of it made it so much easier to just do the workout.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so how about now the eating side of it? Did you try anything on the eating side of it? Because you could always try stickers and a program and everything on the eating side too, if you wanted. Right.
So I haven't actually tried stickers or anything for eating because I haven't thought of a way to, I guess, I don't know. I do the Beachbody program 2B mindset for my boundaries, which is just like an idea of eating vegetables and drinking water more than anything else and letting that be your first choice. So I track that and I write that down, and I guess I put little smiley faces when I've made a good choice.
Okay. The interesting thing though, have you read my new book, Say Goodbye to Emotional Eating?
Midway through it.
Okay. Well, in that back book, there's a chapter on boundaries. And I feel like a lot of times people get primary boundaries mixed up because if it's for a primary boundary, it has to be, you have to limit in some way how much or how often or what types of foods you eat, something that will limit it. And so if you just say, let vegetables be my first choice, that's not a primary boundary because you could still have 5 Dairy Queen Blizzards be your second choice. You know what I mean? There's no end to that.
Right.
If you say I have to cut out all sugar and all flour, then that kind of works because if you cut all that out, usually you do lose weight or maintain.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead. I was just thinking about that as you said that.
It's more strict than that, but so it's actually at breakfast, they split your plate up and 50% of your breakfast has to be protein, 25, some kind of carb, and 25, I forget what else. I think it's fruits or something, but then your has to be veggies and then protein. And then your dinner has to be like, it's all split up like that.
Okay. So it is probably primary boundaries. I just misunderstood what it is. In fact, I think bright line eating might be kind of like that too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. So why does that not work? What's the difference between building an exercise habit and limiting yourself to following your boundaries for eating?
I think if I'm honest, it's craving pleasure. Because I got to where I loved exercise and I loved the way that exercise made me feel. And so what I'm struggling with now is I love chocolate and I love the way that chocolate makes me feel, but only for a little bit, right? Like we all know it's a lie because it's not going to make me feel good 20 minutes from now when I realize, oh crap, I broke my boundaries, or a week from now when I go, oh crap, I broke my boundaries every single day and I haven't lost any weight.
Yeah. I also think too that exercise is starting a habit and eating is stopping a habit.
Right.
So like starting a habit, when you say you're going to renew your mind for it, like if I wrote all the questions in my renewing the mind project for, starting a habit, usually a few questions in, I feel like doing the habit. So I don't even go through all the questions, but with stopping a habit, it's way harder because you're breaking a stronghold. And so it seems to me like you have to put way more effort into it. And on those days when everything's going on and you're just stressed out, well, you don't really want your little portions that they tell you to have for those 3 meals, right?
Right. I want Nilla wafers or something.
Right.
Like yeah. One thing that I did when I was teaching, I had a student bring me well-meaning. Her mom owns, I don't know if you're familiar with crumble cookies. It's a franchise. We have these, gigantic, just the most indulgent cookie you could imagine with the most frosting and most decorations. Anyway, they're amazing cookies, but her mom owned it. And so for a teacher gift, she brought me 6 of those.
Oh, wow.
And the serving size is probably a quarter of one of the cookies, and she gave me 6 of them. And I'm like, I'm trying to lose weight. What am I supposed to do with this? So it just sat on my counter for a while, and I ate probably 3 of the cookies in one day. And I was like, this is bad. I can't do this. So I got a Sharpie and I got one of your books and I got as many Bible verses as I could and just wrote all on the lid of this. It's like a donut box. I wrote all on the lid of this box, all the Bible verses. And I'll tell you, I didn't eat another bite of the cookies. And I felt bad because I didn't want them wasted. I was like, I cannot open this box if there are that many Bible verses on it.
That's so funny. That's where the truth actually changed your desires, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And they are still wasted. Regardless, they're wasted. If they're hurting you, they're both wasted and hurting you. So it's better just to waste them rather than waste and hurt.
That's fair. And I think that's another thing that I grew up with that I'm trying to break now is we weren't allowed to leave the table without cleaning our plate because it was wasting the food, even if we were full. So I'm trying to break free of that. I'm trying to make sure I don't raise my kids that way. Just say, like, when you're done, you're done. Now, if you get up from the table, you said you were done. You don't get to get anything else. So this is not an excuse to have a treat later. But yeah, I didn't want to waste them because growing up, if you left food, you wasted your food.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We had that too. But that's all super interesting. So what are you exactly wanting coaching on today? Because I know you said, there you had the victory part, you've already lost 30 pounds, you developed the exercise habit, but you also wanted coaching. So what would you like coaching on?
So the thing that I keep catching myself with is I know that renewing my mind will work. I know it because I've done it and it's worked. But sometimes I just say, you know what? I know it's going to work, so I'm not going to do it because I want to eat this cookie. Um,
Well, I did that all the time because I felt
yeah,
exactly the same way. But is there any reason you couldn't make yourself do it right immediately after you eat the cookie or while you're eating the cookie?
yeah, I've thought about that. And I think every single time I'm like, but I don't want to change my mind. I want to enjoy the whole cookie.
But you still got to enjoy the cookie because, okay, so beforehand, you're thinking, I don't want to renew because if I renew, I won't want to eat the cookie and I won't eat it. Okay, that's
Right.
the lie before. But
Mhm.
but afterwards, that's not true because we've already gone to eat the cookie. So what are you thinking afterwards that makes you not want to renew right afterwards? What's your thought?
I'm going to feel very bad about the cookie that I just ate, or
Okay,
like I'm guilty or shame.
so I'm going to feel very bad about the cookie I just ate if I renew.
Hmm.
Okay, anything else you're thinking?
That's really it.
Okay, so what's the truth to I'm going to feel very bad about the cookie I just ate if I renew?
I think maybe I might feel convicted and it might help me change my mind in the future, but it's not going to make me think, oh my gosh, I'm such a terrible person and I'm never going to break free of this. And oh, God could never love. It's not that big deal. It's kind of meant to make me change my mind a little bit. I don't know.
Okay, I'm writing some of those things out you just said too. Were you already feeling bad about eating the cookie afterwards? Were you already feeling bad and guilty?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. So I'd say the truth is, if the lie is I'm going to feel bad about eating the cookie if I renew, I would say the truth is I already feel bad about it. And renewing will help me bring it to God, talk to him about it, gain freedom, if I feel like I've sinned and I'm not in the club that says you sin if you eat one bite over, outside your
Right.
boundaries or anything. But you can ask forgiveness if you feel like, you did eat in a bad way.
Hmm.
So, and I would also say another truth is if I don't renew after I eat the cookie, I'm going to keep feeling bad about these cookies because I'm going to keep doing it again and again. My best hope for eating a reasonable amount of cookies where I don't feel bad about it is to keep renewing every time I eat one. And since I can't make myself do it before, the next best thing is to do it as soon as I'm through.
Right.
Or another thing you could do is beforehand, you could say, all I have to do is renew. And if I want to eat the cookie after I renew, I get to.
Yeah.
So if you said that, what percentage of the time do you think you could actually do a all out renewing session with an open mind where you'd still feel like eating the cookie afterwards? What percentage of the time?
Oh, like 0% of the time. There's never been a time that I've renewed and I haven't changed my mind.
Okay, so that is dangerous to renew before the cookie then, right? I thought you might at least have a 1% chance. Okay.
It's worked so well for me because I can talk myself out of it so easily. And I just don't want to talk myself out of it.
Okay, so what about how many times do you think you'd have to renew after the cookie? So you get to eat a whole bunch of cookies because you're only going to renew afterwards every single time. How many times before you actually really want that cookie even before?
So I think it's a more a matter of consistency because if I did it 3 times, I would be fine. But then maybe a month later, I would have to do it 3 or 5 more times or something like that. So it would be hard work on the front, maybe 3 to 5 times before, not a lot of times. But then I would have to come back to it every so often just to remind myself, hey, it's okay. You don't need to do this.
Yeah, I think you're right. Consistency is the key. If we only
Mhm.
renew every once in a while, it's not going to change us
Right.
because those lies are coming at us every day, several times throughout the day. And if you're say you have, picture a baseball, one of those machines that throws baseballs out for the pitchers.
Yeah.
So if that's consistently throwing baseballs out and you're only trying to hit 2 times, how those balls are going to be hitting you, right? You have to keep attacking throughout the day, be consistent. Okay, you said a couple other things. You said one of the thoughts, I don't know if this is one that you might have. I just heard it come out of your mouth. I'm such a terrible person.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you might think about if you're eating a lot of cookies?
I think I might not say it that way, but I might say I'm being a bad example for my kids when they see me eat this or when they see me act this way.
Okay. And is that true?
Um, I think yes, but I don't think it's as big of a deal as I make it in my head. I think the better example that I'm making is um, showing them how I can enjoy a treat every once in a while and not overindulge.
Yeah, that's good. And I think the best example for your kids is to let them see, hey, mom has a problem in this area. This is
Yeah,
something I'm going to God for help with. And you
right.
look at, I'm going to have this cookie and I'm going to go, you can watch me. I'm going to go renew my mind afterwards because I'm trying to change the way I think about cookies so I can eat with control. So like, thinking about parenting and how I could relate to your childhood experience. And I'm sure your dad was a great dad. My dad was a great dad too, but I that was also emphasized in my house, be skinny. So if you have, and the parents are trying to do it for a good, but so if
Right.
you had a parent who's always saying little things or a parent who's just struggling with things, and then the kids can see him working on it, going to God for help, which one's the better example or which one's more helpful to the kid?
That one's definitely more helpful. It's less like almost hypocritical, like if I say be skinny, be skinny, be skinny, or we value these things, and then they see me struggling with it, never see me working on it actively, then they're just going to think I'm a hypocrite.
Well, and also they might think, oh, mom doesn't have any problems. I mean, it's kind of nice for our kids to see that we do have problems and struggles so they don't think they're a person. Because even if you don't, you wouldn't say, I'm such a terrible person, it's possible you believe it at the gut level.
Right.
Because a lot of people do. They say, oh, I'm such a terrible person because I'm binging and here I've been a Christian forever. I shouldn't be doing that. So what's the truth to I'm such a terrible person because I'm binging, I've been a Christian forever?
Everybody struggles with something. And so that does not make me a terrible person. And even though I am a broken, imperfect person, I've been redeemed and bought by the blood of Christ, and I can break free of anything that is troubling me.
Yeah, I think that's just a really great truth. And I think also even just to take it into context, what's the difference between murdering and eating an extra cookie or binging? and even, I think of, when you see people on the news who have done horrible things and you think, wow, what kind of are they struggling with a mental illness? What drove them to that? And so even for that, you feel compassion for that person because what drove them to that, and you'd rather be the victim than the bad guy. You know what I mean? So I guess giving yourself grace and recognizing we're all struggling. In fact, I was reading in my quiet time. Can't remember, must have been Romans 13 or so. It's right around there. Because sometimes you read the New Testament, you think, oh, those New Testament guys, they never struggle with sin. I mean, the Old Testament people, they were crazy, but the New Testament people, they're all perfect. But Paul was saying something like, don't have orgies or, some crazy thing. It's like he wouldn't have been saying it to them if they weren't struggling with it. So those New Testament Christians struggle with sin. We struggle with sin and weakness. We're frail human beings.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we need to talk about?
Really, the biggest thing is I know I need to renew even though I don't want to.
All right. So back when you were exercising, you would have said, I know I need to exercise even when I don't want to. And renewing is also starting a habit, just like exercise.
Right.
So what could you apply when you remember back how you made yourself start exercising? Is there anything you could apply to renewing so that you get to the point with renewing where you love it, just like you love exercising now?
I think so. One of the things that made the 100-day challenge super helpful was, yes, the stickers, but it also had like an end goal. And we all know now, because of where I am, that yes, that had a 100 on the calendar and it was the last number. But by that point, I had fallen in love with exercise so much that I made a day 101 and 102. And now it's the next January, a year later from when I started it, and I'm still exercising. So I think maybe if I made myself a tracker and made like a 100-day challenge, I will renew my mind at such and such time, or like this many times for 100 days, and I checked them off. That's great. And that's awesome. And then by the end of the 100 days, I feel like it would be such a habit by then that I wouldn't need to check it off anymore. 101 would just happen. 102 would just happen, just like exercise did.
I think that's a great idea. So if you think about that, do you see any stumbling blocks or things that could get in the way of you finishing out that goal?
Time, like finding obviously with two little children, babies running around, it's easy for me to go, oh, I really need to renew my mind right now because I feel really tempted right now. And then the child like cuts his hair or something ridiculous. Distraction on its own, but then at the end of it, I feel stressed. And I'm like, okay, time for that cookie that I was going to renew about 30 minutes ago because now I'm really stressed. So I see myself like I might need to set timers in the middle of the day to remind myself to. I'm trying to think of ways that I could get through when all of heck breaks loose in my house because that happens a lot. Do you have any ideas?
Well, what time of day are you most likely to start being tempted to break your boundaries?
Probably around when I feed my kids a snack at like 10:30.
Okay, so 10:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there any way you could renew right before 10:30, like at 10 or 10:15?
Yeah, I could.
Is that usually kind of a peaceful time? I mean, somebody still might be cutting somebody's hair at 10:15, but
yeah, I think it would be.
in fact, you could even tell the kids, hey, we're going to have a snack at 10:30, but I need to go do my renewing first. So I'm going to do that and we'll set the timer. And when the timer rings, we'll have the snack.
Yeah.
So that way you could set the alarm for 10:20. And also that would make the kids the habit. And then the kids would start saying, Mom, did you do your renewing? Right? At least I would think that's what my kids would have done. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Because Paxton would walk up and go, are you done yet? Have you done your thing yet?
Well, yeah, you could tell him you can't interrupt me. Because remember, I set the timer. So when the timer goes off, that's when we have our snack.
Yeah.
So that would work. How long do you think it takes to renew?
So I need to find a way to make it take less time because I like to really draw it out and write down every single thought that comes into mind. So I could realistically make it last 15 minutes, but I also like to sit down and write down every single thing. So it could be 15 minutes or it can be 30 or 45 minutes, depending on how I'm feeling that day.
Okay. So you know what the interesting thing is? A lot of times the people I find that have a hard time making themselves are sometimes the people who like to spend a lot of time doing it. Right. So then you have to figure out how to simplify it. Because like when I was renewing for Breaking Free, it took about 1 minute because all I wrote down was one lie. Okay. So I would have write down the lie. Well, I guess we didn't really have a lie. What would be a lie that would make you want to have a snack at 10:30, or what would be a belief or 2 or 3 beliefs?
My kids are eating a snack, so I should eat with them.
Okay. So that's the only thing you'd have to write down. Just one belief. My kids are eating a snack, so I should eat with them. What's the truth to that?
I am under no obligation to eat when my kids eat. And if I am hungry, then I can have some carrot sticks or something.
Yeah, that's right. And I would also say it's kind of, it's dangerous to pattern my behavior after 1 and 5, because that means if my kid's throwing a tantrum at the store, I should throw a tantrum at the store. If my kid is cutting off his hair, I should cut off my hair. So we choose behavior that is good for us, not behavior that other people are doing. So each time you'd write down a different truth. And if you can, write down 2 beliefs and 2 truths. So let me ask you this question. Let's just say you did that before the snack. If that's the only one you journaled, how long would that take? Oh, like a minute or 2 for sure. Okay. And would it stop you? Would it make you not want to have the snack? For sure. Okay. So then that goes, that takes your time down from 15 or 30 minutes down to 1 minute. Yeah. And you know what you could do, because you said you have my new book. I have a lot of, lists of 5 lies in there. You could just turn to one of the lists, do one of the lies. And if you feel like, okay, I feel like I can make it through snack time, stop there. If you need to do the second time lie, do the second lie. And if you did all 5 lies, how long would it take to journal the truth for all 5 lies, do you think, in one of those exercises? That's one of the ones that's taken me 15 minutes or longer because I'm trying to put Bible verses with it. And I'm looking for like 5 or 6 Bible verses for each. Okay. So what's the I mean, I can see a lot of value in that if it's more like, in a time you have a time for reflection. Right. But when you think of Jesus, when he was in the middle of battle with in the desert, he didn't he just answered Satan with one truth. You know what I mean? Yeah. He didn't do the whole 15 to 30 minute deal. So the 15 to 30 minute deal, it's great. It's kind of like educational. It fills you up. It gives you foundation. But in the moment, keep it short, because otherwise your desire to make it long will make you not want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a lot of times I go, I don't have time to do this.
So, right. Okay. So what's the truth to I don't have time to do this now?
I am the master of my time, and it does not take as long as I think it's going to take, and I can plan for it.
Right. And I would say the truth is too, I have time to do this as long as I only make it 3 minutes, and 3 minutes is enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And see, other people, like if I said I don't have time to do it, I might say I don't have time to do it because actually I don't, actually that's what I never said. Isn't that interesting? That was a lie I put in, like I deserve a donut, but I never said it.
Yeah.
What I would have said. I just don't feel like it or something like that. Who knows what I would have said? I probably would have said it's too hard. That's what I usually say. It's too hard, which might go along. Do you also say it's too hard sometimes since you feel like it has to take so long?
No, it's just the time. It's just the time.
Right.
It takes. Yeah.
So what would you have to accept if you were going to shorten it up?
That I don't have to fill out a whole page, and I don't have to write a Bible verse for every single word that I put on the paper.
Okay. And what are you believing that makes you think you have to write a Bible verse for every word you put on the paper?
I really don't know. It's just a habit that I feel like I need to put a Bible verse down. I don't know why. Because I know the Bible verse in my heart. There's no have to write it down. Nobody ever taught me that. I just really liked doing it.
Right. Well, you could just put a Bible verse instead of the truth. I mean, instead of writing a sentence for the truth, you could just write a Bible verse, as long as that Bible verse addresses the specific lie you're believing. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if it might be more helpful, though, just to write a lie and a truth and then have the Bible verses like in a little Rolodex or something that you can read. In fact, that'd be another way to renew your mind, is to kind of pray through a few of those Bible verses before you eat.
Yeah, and just having them accessible, or even in the kitchen or on the pantry door if I'm standing right there. Because that was what was so cookie box, was the verses were there where I was tempted. They weren't tucked in a drawer somewhere for me to go find. They were right there where I had to say no in that moment. And so if I had Bible verses on my pantry or on my fridge, then I'm looking at them and saying, like, I have to face them. It's like I have to face God before I make the decision.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and what it really should happen is it should change our desires.
Right. And it does.
So it changes our desires, and you've already said it does. So I guess what could change your desires? What would you need to do so that your desire to renew is changed? So if when you renew, your desire to overeat is changed, you don't feel like it, what would you need to do to change your desire to renew?
I think it does kind of have to be a checkbox at first until I fall in love with it.
Okay.
And like I said, maybe making myself a calendar that I can put stickers on or check marks on. But every good habit that I've ever formed has started off feeling like a chore that I've later fallen in love with. So even if renewing feels like a chore at first, I don't think it would take very long. I mean, the 100-day challenge didn't even take me 20 days to feel sad if I missed it. Not just like upset, oh no, I missed a day, but just, oh no, that was my fun time and I lost my fun time. So I think if I just need to push through the point where it kind of feels like a chore to where I feel like I really like it, and I get upset if I don't get to do it.
Well, I think that would be great to try. And I'd love to, if you try it, let me know afterwards. Let me know how it went. And what you could do if you wanted, so let's just say you said, I get a sticker once a day when I do it. So you could start out the first week or 2 weeks, however long you wanted. I just get a sticker once a day. And then, at week 1 or 2, you could say, okay, it has to be a little bit of a harder time of day to make myself renew. So I don't know, would there be any value? You see what I'm saying? Because it's easy to make yourself renew in the morning. It's harder to make yourself renew during the time of temptation.
Right.
Would you think it'd be work to transition to that? So you start easier? What do you think would help as far as that goes?
Yeah, I think easing into it because even with all my other habits, there's been phases. It wasn't 100 days of doing the exact same thing every day. It was 20 days of this, and then we amp it up, and then we amp it up, and then we amp it up.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
So you could think about if you want to amp it up and how you would amp it up.
exactly.
I wasn't sure. I think sometimes the sound cuts off. You guys might have heard it as you're listening that every once in a while we can't hear Anna. But what did you mean when you said the little quote marks?
Graduating.
Oh yeah, so graduate. Okay, so you do 20 days easy. So what if you're just going to off the top of your head brainstorm some ways to amp it up? What would they be with renewing?
I think adding more. I think at first, just doing one renewing a day would be enough to like kind of dip my toe in the water. And I know that I need to do more than one a day because I'm tempted more than once a day. So if I just start with once a day, fall in love with it, and then I graduate to the next phase and I'm renewing also at snack time and maybe also at lunchtime or something like that. And I would graduate way earlier than 20 days. Maybe I do a week where I just every morning and then I add in do it before lunchtime and then I add in do it at snack time or whatever. So
Okay.
adding in after I've gotten practice shortening myself.
Okay. So how would you make yourself avoid becoming too obsessive about it? Like, do you think you'd ever become obsessive about renewing?
I would. And it makes me sad that you brought that up because yes, I would get obsessive about it.
So what would you do to avoid that? Because you don't want to get obsessive about it.
Yeah, that's a good question because I haven't avoided obsessing about things. I usually just obsess about them. I feel like taking the stickers away is a bad choice, but I do feel like at a certain point it would be get the sticker, get the sticker, get the sticker. I don't know, Barb, because this is one of the things I struggle with in every area.
I would think maybe cap it at how much.
Okay.
The reason I asked the question is because I heard you say the next time add 2 more, and then the next time maybe 2 more. And I'm thinking, how many times a day are you going to get up to? So maybe just say, okay, from 0 to 100, it's just no more than 3 times a day.
Okay.
So I would ramp it up, or maybe not even ramp it up in quantity. I mean, I would definitely ramp it up to 2 or maybe 3, but ramp up as far as a different time of day. It's harder to do a different time of day. Closer to the temptation would be harder. And then also, if you start feeling like I have to renew or blah, blah, truth journal about it. Yeah. And the truth is, God doesn't say you have to renew 1,000,000 times to break free. He wants me to, trust in him, hold renewing lightly, hold boundaries lightly. Really, we hold everything lightly. We trust in God. But these are just tools that work for us. I mean, he did say we're transformed by the renewing of the mind. But he didn't say you have to renew your mind exactly this way, exactly the right time. You always have to add a Bible verse. You have to do it 5 times a day. You know what I mean? It's we're just working on changing our mindset. That's all.
And I need to make it not a task list, but just something that I'm doing, just something that's helping me.
Right. Because the good thing about being the personality you can make yourself do things is you can make yourself do them. Yeah. So recognize that and rejoice in being the type of person who can make yourself set out your mind to do it. Whereas somebody like me, I'm not that type of person. I wish I was in a lot of ways because it make my life easier for work. But, whatever type of person we are, we have some weaknesses, those strengths, and we have to work. The weakness to the person who can make themselves do things is they can become obsessive about it. And do I have any questions on obsession in my renewing the mind project? I bet I do.
You probably do.
Yeah, I think I do. In those,
I know that they. I said I think I've probably avoided them because I know that I'm.
Well, yeah, I check them out. I think they're probably in the starting a habit questions. I know, say the greed, lust. There's some maybe on success. I have to succeed, reward, fear of failure. There's a lot of them in there. Workaholism. That could be workaholism could be, I have to keep renewing. Yeah. So, and why have you avoided them? That's interesting that you've avoided them.
So I'm learning, I avoided Enneagram for a very long time because I did not like the idea of being put in a box with my personality type. But I finally started reading about it and learning about myself. And I've realized that I'm the type of person that avoids pain as much as possible. up to the point of like emotional pain or being called out for things. And so if I have the opportunity to avoid confronting things that will be hard for me, I avoid them. So if I know the question is going to be hard to answer because it hits too close to home, I'm just going to pretend the question's not there.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's good. That's really good to describe that. Cause I'm sure a lot of people are listening and nodding their heads and saying, exactly, that's exactly how I feel. So I think, when we picture God, like as our friend, have you ever had a friend where you like, oh, you just share everything? Picture God as that friend. And if
Right.
you renew with God, would that make it easier to not worry about bringing those things up and looking at them, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Because it would take the pressure off. It wouldn't be shameful like it's about my identity. It would be just something that I've done and something that we're working through, something that happened.
Right. And
Yeah.
when you have those conversations with people, you get really close to them, because you're kind of like laying it all out there. So, okay. Can you think of anything else that would help make it easier than that? That's the only one that came to my mind offhand.
I can't, mostly because I don't know, I've been fighting for this for a very long time. So I haven't like learned anything new yet, or I wouldn't be in the situation. Yeah, I'm still just learning how to say I will answer the question even though it's hard.
That's good. Well, and you could do the self-condemnation questions or
Yeah.
the feeling inadequate questions. And I think just recognize too that you have so many strengths in your personality, and I have so many strengths in my personality, but my strengths are opposite and weaknesses are, right? So you shouldn't feel shameful about your weaknesses because in a way they're caused by your strengths. They're the flip side of your strengths, right? And I wish I had your strengths. So if you had my strength, which is being willing to talk about anything and look at anything and not worrying about it, you'd also have my weakness, which is also being able to look a list in the face and say, I don't care if I follow that list. Right. So maybe that helps if we think, okay, well, we all got our own little things to work on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. So what was your biggest takeaway, do you think?
Definitely shortening up my renewing time, because it will make it so much easier to do when it doesn't feel like a heavy burden that's going to take up tons of time. It doesn't have to be as much of an ordeal as I've made it.
Good. Okie dokie. And are you going to take any action steps as a result of our conversation?
Absolutely. I'm going to go make my 100 days checklist. Start to have it.
Okay.
I'm probably going to go renew right now before I head out, because part of me, every time I get in the car, wants to drive by Sonic and go get a Dr. Pepper or something. So I'll renew before I get in the car, decide not to go to Sonic, and go about my day.
Good job. And how are you going to make your chart? Just out of curiosity, you can use construction paper. You're going to make it on the computer. How are you going to make it?
I use bullet journals. So I'll probably put it in my bullet journal and put a 10 by 10 grid.
Oh, okay. Is that a bullet journal? You mean like a paper one?
Yes.
Like a moleskin sort of one?
Right. It looks like moleskin, but instead of lines, it has dots all over the page. And you can kind of doodle all in them.
Oh, really? So you make a little chart with all those little dots? How many days would you put on a page of your journal?
So I guess it would depend on how big I want it to spread. I could let each little grid be one day, or I could spread it out to be like 4 dots. I don't know yet. I'll have to look at it and do the math and make sure
I'll fit the sticker on, make sure there's room for the sticker, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's interesting. I never thought of making a sticker chart like in a journal. That's a great idea.
I have my one journal tracks like a ton of habits and a ton of different things. So my like read the Bible through the year that I've done the last few years, I write like it's obsessive and it's awful, but I put a box for every chapter in the Bible and I color in the box when I've read it, just so at the end of the year I can see the whole page colored in. But that's in there. My planner's in there. It's all in the journal.
Oh yeah, perfect. Good. That's a good tip. Okay, what was your best tip? So if you're thinking about, talking to the person here who's like hates exercising, doesn't want to exercise, just like you don't want to renew your mind, what would be your best tip for that person listening right now?
Take as much thought out of it as possible. Find a program to follow, find a trainer to work with, let them plan it. Don't try to do it yourself. Start small, Don't go all crazy like I did because I got burnt out after a little bit and had to jump back in. So start small, let somebody else do the thinking and planning for you, and just ride the wave until you love it.
Okay. So you kind of make it easy, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. So great to have you, Anna.
Yeah. Thanks, Barb. This is super helpful.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It was good to have you. And I hope you have a good week following God, following your boundaries, and I'll talk to you next time.